Welcome. I want to get my hair in the frame. Let's see if we can do that. There we go. That's cute. Welcome everybody to my first video episode of Love, Lust, and Magic. I am nervous for this because whenever you do something new, there's always going to be some bumps in the road. But I'm so excited to be here and to share this episode. I think I like that framing better, so we're gonna go with it. Anyway, I'm so excited to be here with this video episode to celebrate the release of my new book called Goddess Energy: Awakening the Divine Feminine Through Myth and Magic. This is out with Tarcher Perigee on March 19th, 2024. And this is my 6th release. So it's my 4th full-length book, and then I also have a guided journal and a tarot deck. And this is actually the book that I started writing in 2020, but my relationship with Goddess Energy goes back way before that, and I really just want to share a little bit about that before I get into what this book brings and what I hope it supports you in uncovering within yourself. So I grew up Jewish. My father is a rabbi, and both my parents are of Ashkenazi descent. And I was raised in the Reform community of Judaism in the US. I moved around a lot. But in Judaism, you're not, God is not masculine or feminine. God is everything. But like Spanish, Hebrew has gendered terms, or it has gendered language rather. So depending on what you're talking about, the verbiage is either going to be masculine or feminine, right? So even though God is not a woman or a man, in the Hebrew language, the verbiage associated with God is masculine. So just by default, when you're talking about God in Judaism, you're usually talking about he, him. But there is an aspect of Judaism that honors the feminine. There are Hebrew goddesses that I talk about in Goddess Energy. There is the idea of the Shekinah, which is the indwelling of the divine, the embodied aspect of the divine. And Shabbat and Torah and even the ancient land of Israel are all referred to as, mainly it's Shabbat. Shabbat and the Torah are referred to as female, as divine, as feminine. But you're not really, you might read the word Shekinah when you're at services. Sorry, eyelash emergency. You might read about you might read a Hebrew word that says Shekinah in a prayer, but you're not really taught about the feminine in Judaism. And when I came to witchcraft, I was about to be bat mitzvahed. It was that year, I was 12. I guess it was in 6th grade because I was going into 7th grade, and I went to Jewish sleepaway camp for a month, and it was miserable. I cried every day. I wanted to go home. I was homesick, and I also recognized I believed in the divine feminine. When I found witchcraft at 11 or 12, I found it through Silver Ravenwolf, and I found it through Eden McCoy and her book, A Witch's Guide to Fairy Folk. And both of these authors connect to witchcraft through the feminine. They connected to it through the earth. They connected to it through the lunar cycles, through the goddess as goddess of earth, goddess of the moon. And I remember learning, reading, finding out there was the divine feminine at all, finding out about the goddess and just recognizing a part of myself. I came to witchcraft when I was 12 or 13. I was 12, I was 11 or 12, and I'm 30 now. And I've never felt the same energy that I felt as going home as I did then. I've never had that energy of finding a part of myself so powerfully. And when I found a feminine face of the goddess, of the divine, when I found the goddess, when I learned about the different faces of her through Silver Ravenwolf, yet later through taking yoga classes and Hindu philosophy and deities and just reading books about it and then learning and connecting, I never found that in Judaism. And it's a shame because there are so many faces of the goddess in Judaism, but my connection to witchcraft is so connected to the goddess and always has been. And in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, so 4 years ago-ish, maybe a little less, I got really into the history of the goddess. I was really devoted to learning about her different faces and about the evolution of where these different faces of the divine feminine came from and how like we got the divine masculine from them and how like that, just all of it. And when it came time to pitch a book to my publishers, I pitched one on goddesses. And that, excuse me, is what goddess energy is. So maybe that's better so you guys can see my beautiful face. So I started writing this book in 2020 and I was a chapter away from being done when I was approached to write Sacred Sex, which was like sacred sexuality had been trending at that point, and my publisher was like, do you want to write this book? It'd have to be expedited, blah, 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 and I wanted to write that book anyway. So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Goddess energy took the back seat, and then I wrote my tarot deck, wrote the book, and created the tarot deck, the Goddess of Love Tarot. Also, look how cute my Joshua Tree mug and my book match. So cute. So I went from writing Goddess Energy, almost being done, to writing and finishing Sacred Sex, to writing and finishing the tarot deck, and then went back to Goddess Energy. So it was over a year of not touching Goddess Energy by the time I came back to it to finish it. And that was such a gift. Because in the time between writing Goddess Energy and finishing it, editing it, I had created my own trinity of goddesses, and I had fully recognized and devoted myself to the goddess of love. My path follows the current of the goddess of love that starts with Inanna and Ishtar, that flows through where, like, you know, it flows through so many different goddesses, and I talk about that in the book. But I devoted myself to Isis or Set, to Venus, and to Babylon, and I'd been devoted to Venus for a long time before that. But I realized that, like, I didn't have to just be devoted to one goddess, that, like, I could be devoted to more than one goddess, that I could have this trinity of goddesses supporting me. And from there, I realized that was a central part of all the different facets of who I am, of my expression, of my sexuality, of my glamour, of what I hope to share with my work. It all boils down to honoring the divine feminine and the goddess of love and serving her. And having that insight and being able to take that, go into writing this book, was so life-changing. And more than that, I really feel like my writing and my voice really leveled up with Sacred Sex. And that was a really researched book, as was this. So I just feel like this was just such a better expression of a book I could have written, because I was, hold up, rewind. This is the best expression of this book that I could have written, because I had space from it and I was able to come back to it. And like, that's so fucking helpful as an artist, as a writer, as a creator, to take time from your creations before you birth them, you know? Stanley Brake. Oh! So, Goddess Energy, Awakening the Divine Feminine Through Myth and Magic. Another plug. So this book was born from a lot of research and personal gnosis, personal exploration, and life. Like, I had done a lot and experienced a lot between the time I wrote this book and the time it came out. And I've been, you know, this has been my path for nearly a whole adult life, like 17, 18 years. And yeah, so also I counted, there's 245 footnotes, and it's like 8 or 9 pages of footnotes, and there's an extensive like 4-page bibliography. So just so this is well researched. I started the book with a list of rituals and practices, and then I get into what the goddess is. Like, who is she? Why do we want to work with her? And this is what I say about the goddess. I'm just going to start reading the book. The goddess is reawakening. The earth alive. The sun and moon shining, dancing, revealing. The way the birds sing. The way flesh on flesh feels in the early morning. Love, lust, magic, and devotion to all that is or was. The fierce protection of the heart of the beloved. The cries of rage and passion, a holy sacrament. The desire to bleed until it's all gone. This is the goddess. Awakening. Inspiring. Calling. Oh, she's as old and wise as the earth, but her myriad faces transcend age and time. Welcome, beloved, to the wild world of goddess energy. I'm so glad you're here, ready to embody new expressions of yourself and your heart. Like the gender binary, the definition of the goddess is a bit blurry these days. Each practitioner will have their own definition of what the goddess is. Your own understanding will allow you to relate to her more intimately too. The goddess does not exist in black and white, and she's not solely expressed through gender or biology. More than anything, the goddess is love. She is a living, breathing expression of the divine erotic, the potencies of sexuality, of death and a rebirth, of destruction and creation. She is all-encompassing, a vibration, a frequency that every person on earth has access to. This is goddess energy, and goddess energy is for everyone. The goddess is consciousness, immanence, intuition, and the cyclical. She is a love that links everything, that brings the whole world into creation. She is best known and felt through the heart. The divine feminine is the counterpart to the divine masculine, which sits at the center of all that is, the logical and chronological force of the universe. These two energies are opposites, which just means they are extremes of the same thing. So for me, the goddess is like a guardian angel of love. She is the divine mother. She is something that's greater than I have words to express. She is a frequency and a force of love. She is the ways that I can trust in the universe. She is the hummingbirds that present themselves to me when I'm having a hard day. She is the touch of a lover, and she is me in my body when I'm feeling inspired and electrified. Goddess energy, the divine feminine, they are kind of buzzwords these days, which is interesting because I feel like in 2015, 2016, maybe even 2020 a little bit, there was kind of this like return to goddess energy. And yeah, it was kind of like wellness Karen, like vibes a little bit, but there was still this like conscious shift towards embracing the goddess. And I do feel like it's kind of back now, and like it is kind of Pinteresty, but at the same time, it's like, who cares if that's your entrance? Like, I love a good meme. I love a good chart. I love going on Pinterest and looking up my archetype energy, you know, like there's space for all of that. And what I think is important is that people come to this path and feel it. The goddess is not something you go and sit in a pew and say a few words and then she appears to you. Like maybe if you're doing a ritual and you're invoking her or evoking her, but like, and I understand that obviously, like I include the Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene in goddess energy, and I talk about them as goddesses. And those are faces of the divine feminine that came before them. That is a Set, and that is Hathor, and that is the whole lineage of goddesses before those goddesses. But you can't think your way to the goddess, and that is like the most important thing that I think people should know. Because if you're just thinking and wondering why she's not presenting herself to you, you're missing the point. The goddess is not, probably hasn't happened to me, like appear in front of you with your eye when your eyes are open as like a person there to do stuff. She is a frequency in which you attune the radio of your heart and your head to. She is a relationship that you enter with gratitude and reciprocity. It's not a transactional relationship. It's a relationship that it's a two-way street. It's a friendship. And I talk about that in goddess energy. And in this book, I talk about the history of the goddess. I talk about how you can see the split between body and heart and sex and spirit when people started conquering each other, which has been a story as old as time, and bringing their gods and their goddesses. And I talk a little bit about that, but then I go into different faces of the goddess. I talk about the goddess of the earth and Gaia and the goddesses for each element. And in every chapter of the book, I include journal questions and affirmations and tarot spreads. Every section of the book includes photos taken by my incredible twin sister, Alexandra Herstik. And the book is printed in this gorgeous jewel-toned purple. But I talk about how to create a goddess grimoire and how to form a relationship with the divine feminine. And then I go into different faces of the goddess of the earth, goddesses of protection and healing, the goddess of love, the dark goddess. I share myth and magic, spells, rituals, poetry, how to create prayers, how to create sigils. I share examples of the goddess and their myths in each of these chapters. I invite you to start connecting to the different faces of the goddess that speak to you. How it's not just like you have to wait for them to come to you. How you can meet them and how you can begin to follow the threads of inspiration within you. Noticing what goddess is speaking to you, what goddess is calling you. And then from there, how you can take that. And at the end of the book, the last chapter is awakening the goddess within yourself. How to connect to her. I talk about glamour and personal style and self-expression. I also share how to invoke or draw the goddess into your body, but more kind of like joining her consciousness and then also allowing her to come into your body. And I share how to do that, how it would look in a ritual, how to end the ritual and dismiss the goddess. And then I go into how to create rituals for the goddess, how to create a long form devotional ritual to the goddess. And my intention is that by the time you get to that last chapter, or if say you find a goddess that speaks to you, you skip to that last chapter and then you have all this information on how to connect with her, how to make your own correspondences, how to honor how the goddess feels in your body in a way that's personal. This book is super littered with research. I did a lot of work, but it's also not just an encyclopedia of goddesses. I didn't write this so you could be like, oh, Xochitl, the Aztec goddess, blah, 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 or Hathor, this is that goddess, and this is that goddess. And like, it's not about being an armchair goddess worshiper. It's about becoming a vessel for the goddess. And what that means to me is like recognizing the infinite connection that you have to yourself and all people. And whether that means recognizing war and genocide or being compassionate to people that are strangers or honoring the earth or smiling at a baby or holding somebody with love. Goddess energy is the antithesis of disconnection. It is connection and it is love and it is a way of being in reciprocity, relationship, and matriarchy. Because matriarchy is not just the opposite of patriarchy. It's not putting women on pedestals, Barbie land version. It is a circle. It's not a pyramid. The matriarchy honors all sentient beings and expressions of sentient beings as equal. One of the things I really love from Buddhism is that after you do a practice, so after you do a series of mantras with mala beads, or you chant, or you do whatever, you meditate, you dedicate that to the liberation of all sentient beings. You are doing your spiritual practice for yourself, and for every other being on this planet, and for their evolution, and for their freedom, and for their liberation. And it's such a gorgeous practice, and like, that's goddess energy. Like, goddess energy is that awareness. And goddess energy to me is a way of connecting to love. As a devotee of the goddess of love and lust, my practice with goddess worship is rooted in my expression of my sexual self, of how I write, how I move through the world, in touch with my sensuality and in touch with my sexuality and not in spite of it. And that means a reverence for the way that I show up as a sexual being. Yeah. I lost my train of thought, but I do want to share a little bit more about like what you can expect from goddess energy. So in this book, the rituals for the first chapter include ritualizing goddess energy, setting up your space, grounding and centering and closing your grounding, creating a goddess grimoire and consecration ritual, how to form a relationship with the divine feminine, how to leave offerings for her, journal questions, a meditation to commune with the goddess, affirmations, and a tarot spread for meeting goddess energy. Honestly, y'all, I'm so excited to be able to use my tarot deck, the Goddess of Love Tarot, with this book. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be so fabulous because that deck is attuned to the goddess. It's a tool to meet her. And especially with the chapter on the Goddess of Love, it's gonna be so good. The second chapter is the Goddess of the Earth. The tarot spread for the first chapter is a tarot spread for meeting goddess energy, by the way. The second chapter is on the Goddess of the Earth, and I have the goddess as the elements. For each of those, I give an example of a goddess for Earth, which is Artemis, a goddess for air, which is the Fates, a goddess for water, which is, or a goddess for fire, which is Sekhmet, and a goddess for water, which is Lakshmi. I share journal questions and how to connect with the goddess as that element. And then I also talk about Isis and Demeter. I talk about how to create an altar to the earth goddess, which acts as a template for how to create an altar to the goddess later on. I have journal questions, affirmations, and a tarot spread. For the goddess of protection and healing, I have ways to connect to her, different goddesses of protection and healing, how to create an energy signature. So that's like a sigil, but forever and a little different. And then journal questions, affirmations, and tarot spread. For the goddess of love chapter, I have how to cultivate a relationship with the goddess of love, goddesses of love, and then I have a section on crafting prayers to the goddess of love, which again, you can use that section on crafting prayers to craft prayers for other goddesses. I talk about sex magic, and then I share an Aphrodite Venus glamour spell to attract love, lust, and desire. And there are journal questions, affirmations, and a tarot spread in there. That tarot spread is a tarot spread for invoking your inner love goddess. I can't wait to do that with my tarot deck. Cannot wait. And then the dark goddess is chapter 5. How I'm connecting to the dark goddess, faces of the dark goddess, and then a shadow magic ritual for embracing the dark goddess within, as well as journal questions, affirmations, and tarot spread. And then the last chapter is embracing the goddess within. So I include how to bring the goddess into every day, how to create talismans of glamour for the goddess, invoking the goddess, creating your own goddess correspondences to work with, creating rituals for the goddess, creating long-form devotionals to the goddess, a self-initiation and dedication ritual for the goddess path, journal questions, affirmations, and then a tarot spread for living in goddess consciousness, which I'm very excited about. I forgot I included this initiation. And again, there's some really gorgeous photography in this book. My sister took some really beautiful photos. Alexander Herstik, shout out. And we really slayed. Let me see if I can find, like, look at that. So I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to share this. Book with you guys. And I feel like when I was writing it, I had so many different like downloads. It was a really, really intense cycle of learning about the goddess. And I feel like there was a lot of different aspects of the goddess that I learned about as I was writing this book. The goddess of the earth, I feel like I reconnected to the elements a lot right before through writing Bewitching the Elements. And also at the height of COVID, when I was like locked indoors, I was really reappreciating my need for nature. And then during COVID, I also got horrible medical anxiety, like so many other people. I had multiple health emergencies in my family. I had some health stuff going on, and my relationship with Aset, the Egyptian mother goddess of healing, magic, necromancy, death, love. She's an earth goddess. She is the goddess I call on for protection and healing. Like that deepened so much. And my meditation practice was such a big part of it. It was just protection, standing healing out to myself, to my family, to my friends, to my community, to my country, to the world at large. I would just send out Reiki every day. And I really had to come back to finding safety in myself. And Aset helped with that. And I also really shifted the way that I relate to and date people. By the time I started writing Goddess Energy and came back to it, I had started official power dynamics. I had dated, I had fucked, I had broken up with, like, ended things with people, I had fallen in love. There was a lot. And I had a really different perspective on the goddess of love. I had come back to her as a devotee. I had pledged myself to Babylon and Venus and Aset, and I had done so much work with Kabbalah and with Hermetic Kabbalah and with the tarot, and I had all these different perspectives of the goddess when I wrote this book. And then through the goddess of love, it like really kind of expanded. I wrote Sacred Sex. I had my tarot deck come out. And then I went through a lot of darkness, you know, as so many of us do, and COVID and my sister having cancer, my dad's heart attack, my uncle getting sick, my own body surprising me with things. And then since this book has come out, multiple deaths around me, and I've had to encounter the dark goddess in a way that I hadn't before. And I was saying this in a class I was teaching a couple weeks ago called Creating a Daily Practice, which is what it sounds like. And I was saying that when you're starting something like this, with this devotion, with this work, this path or this practice, when you're starting a daily ritual, when you're starting a meditation practice, like, you might not know, like, you don't know right away how it's supporting you. You're kind of showing up with trust and then doing it. So for me, what that was that I was showing up every day to do my seated meditation practice, but like, I didn't really know if it was working because I don't have ADHD, but I definitely have a wandering mind and anxiety, and I meditated every day for almost 5.5 years, and I'm still not very good at it, you know, like, but when COVID hit, I was able to realize how much my practice was supporting me, how it was so there for me, how it was a lifeline. And until I had that, I didn't know. Like, until I needed it, I didn't know how much it was helping. I didn't know how much my practice was helping me until I needed it. And I feel the same way for the goddess. Like, my practice the past year has been more outward. It's been more in my day-to-day life, in the work that I'm doing, in connecting to other people, because for so long with COVID, my work was so internal. And I felt like the time had come to live it. And those lived experiences for me are so sacred, and I've met the goddess there through it all. Like, because of everything I've experienced the past few years, coming back to finish this book was just like, it not only rekindled my devotion, but it also just made me so grateful to have had that year to just like reconnect and re-honor or just have the perspective of understanding the importance of this book. So my goal with goddess energy and with the work I share on the divine feminine is to help you find your own connection to that energy in whatever way or wording is important for you. I use the word goddess because to me that feminine aspect is important. But in this book I even talk about Mercury, Odin, Thoth as a goddess, as the magician of the tricksters, of the transformers. I talk about how these gods are queer and trans, and how that is also part of goddess energy. So don't think that you have to be like, this book is not connected to biology or gender. It is an expression of everybody, just like we all have masculine in us. Maybe they're not 50-50, like, doesn't matter, but we all have that whole spectrum. And my intention with this book is to help you connect to your heart and live more in a place of truth for whatever that part of you is, and to have a magical fucking life, to have a life that's like main character energy, where you feel like you are Venus, the goddess of love, or where you are just so enjoying and embodied that everything feels like a kiss from the divine. My intention's not just for you to know every name of the goddess and then not do anything with that. What's the point? My intention is that you take this and you cultivate something sacred. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week. As always, you can order Goddess Energy, Awakening the Divine Feminine through Myth and Magick, through the link below. You can get it wherever books are sold. It'll be out on March 19th. And you can check out all my other books: Inner Witch, Bewitching the Elements, Embody Your Magic, Sacred Sex, The Goddess of Love Tarot, at wherever you get your books as well. I'll link below, as well as all my classes. I have a class called Perverting the Tarot that's all about reading the tarot erotically. I have a class called Self-Seduction, Solo Kink for healing and self-empowerment, and I also have a class on creating a daily practice that's fun and feels good as fuck. So there's a lot of links. You can find them all below, and as always, check out my episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I have tons of episodes of my podcast there, and make sure to like, subscribe, whatever it is. And I'll see you on the other side.